So on this side of where the river used to be, our soil's a little different, especially in the wintertime. Over here, we've got waterlogged soil in the winter. Over there, we've got tons of drainage, too much drainage. And so I'm limited over here. I can't get into the ground as early in the springtime. So I got to plant stuff that comes on a little later, midsummer stuff, and I can't overwinter anything here. Any of the plants we have will drown over here. So we have to find, we got these 4 rectangles, only part of my farm that's a rectangle over here. I love it. I wish everything was. So I was, for rotational reasons, we want to think like, what could we get in these 4 rectangles that we could just rotate every year that would meet those criteria, getting in, not super early in the spring, and harvesting and getting out before before it gets too wet. So we've got most of our winter squash is grown over here. One of these quadrants is winter squash. The other is our 3 main rotations of corn. So that's corn that we divided that field into thirds to make the planting boxy again. This will be another round of brassicas, but not the overwintering. So we're talking about like rutabagas. We're going to do some daikon. We're going to do some broccoli that we'll harvest in October, and storage kohlrabi, some of these characters. So brassicas, that family. And then this, we do celery, and we plant a bed of celery and a bed of something else, and a bed of celery and a bed of something else. We spread it out a little bit in case there's a problem in the celery, a fungal issue, that we'll have like a little buffer for transmission. And we always end up with something by the end of September. And so this just gives us a little bit of protection. So a lot of these beds will be empty by the time that we're harvesting the celery, but we've just come to terms with that. I haven't found another crop that goes in the ground at the same time as celery, is not one of these other crop families, and will stay there the whole time. So that's our rotation scheme over here.
Like a fake bird, another fake bird.
Yeah, so now I've got these rectangles that are slightly different dimension than our islands over there, and so I water them differently. So those are tripods.
Oh no, the flamingo.
Oh, the flamingos. Those are flamingos. Where our irrigation risers come out of the ground, we mark them with a flamingo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that's really good. You can be like, hey, could you go over to flamingo number 3? I think I left the trellising tools over there. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're feeding now, so they need to be. If they've been out a while, I get egret. We did have a pheasant try to really get amorous. Okay, so it was pretty cool. Gonna be sad pheasant.
Yeah, but over here we do water with the central risers. It's like that whole irrigation problem. How do I water a rectangle with circles, right? And so we've got, the math works out really well that we can use these tripods over there, and I can move them around the farm pretty easily. When the corn gets tall, when the winter squash gets all interwoven, and we can walk out there and look, I guess. Then I can, instead of moving expensive tripods around, I could just drive a T-post into the ground. I'm not cultivating over there anymore. I just drive a T-post, and I put my big irrigation guns on that. And then over here, I've got a neighbor on the other side of this fence who doesn't want me watering all of his stuff with these really big irrigation risers. So over here, I use these little wobblers, and that just lets me water the same size zone without going over a fence line. So we go all the way back to the creek there, but we've just decided to only irrigate and farm like these 4 rectangles. We've decided to limit ourselves to the footprint there that we have over here. And that was just sort of determined by where these flamingos are. That's the hard line that's plumbed under the ground for irrigation. So this is our rotational scheme over here. Corn's getting ready.
Have you ever tried epic dry farming? I guess it's called, like unirrigated squash.
Nope. No, I think maybe we could pull it off on this side of the street where the soil's heavier. There's no way, I don't think, that things would do well over there at all. We cut the water on the tomatoes. I'll cut the water on the winter squash in the middle of August. So I let them finish without getting any more water, but I'm watering them every 5 days until then. Yeah. 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 That's all I cut the water on that I can think of now, though. Okay, so this is going to get planted this week. This is what a field will often look like. I tried hard on these later fields that get planted later. I try to not till them too much I don't want to just till to keep the weeds down. So you can see there's a little bit of residue there. That's pigweed, and that won't pose a problem to us. So I hit that with the Perfecta, which is that tool parked over there. And then I've got the transplanter that we use, which is kind of a weird one, rigged up on that tractor. And if anyone wants the experience of riding on the back of a tractor going 0.06 miles an hour, we can set you up on that before we walk back across the street. This part of the farm's kind of nice, right? We're further from the freeway. It's it's a quieter, more peaceful area. Everybody likes it when they get to work on this side. Yeah.
How deeply do you till?
Depends on what the soil's needs are, but I have a 3-bottom plow, and they're 16-inch bottoms on that. And that's what I'll use if I really need to. Other than that, I would just, if I don't need a plow, I'll just use the disc. And the disc is much, much smaller. So, yep.
Mark, could you talk a little bit about like the succession from Terry's Berries to, because did you start farming this 5 acres before buying over there?
We didn't grow all the way back here, but
Okay.
this is completely independent of that. And we grew about half of these 2 fields. We only came out about this far. Yeah, so this would be totally different, like, story and history. This was farmed by Gin Farms before, which was a lot of produce you could find at H Mart. And they had this lot and that one and that one and another one down there. So they're kind of a big farm in this area before they moved to Lewis County. So that's what had been happening here. So it had been farmed for a long, long time. So we didn't establish it as farmland.
Okay.
And then across the street was all berries, essentially from like the 50s through the 80s. And then in the late 80s, it was sort of slowly transitioned into some vegetable production to supplement the berries. And then the berry footprint got smaller and smaller and smaller. That industry kind of changed in our area. There used to be a cannery down in the valley here, and it's not around anymore. So that industry was shrinking anyways. And the owners started doing some diversified veggies over there. And we're really early on our organic certification train, and big assets to the organic community around here locally. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. Any questions about anything over here? Do we need to turn on big risers so we can see what that looks like?
Corn transplanted or?
Yep. We do. We double seed corn in 128s, and then we give them 18 inches, 2 lines. And so you're going to get like 1 ear off of each one. And when you double seed them, what do we think? The ear's a little bit smaller, but
I don't double.
you don't double seed?
I learned that technique from Terry. You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think the ears are maybe just a little bit smaller than they would be otherwise, but you get 2 instead of 1.
I wanted to ask about when do you aim to transplant your squash?
Yeah. For us, that kind of calendar is like a question of like, it's like a labor question because we can only do so much in any given week. So it's like after frost free, like my seeding calendar has like negative numbers, and then there's frost free and positive numbers. It's like year 0. And so you could do that at the same time as tomatoes and have a great season, except tomatoes take a lot of time. And so we have to space it out. So our planting schedule, our seeding schedule is based on our ideal planting schedule. And the planting schedule is like our frost-free date, right at the get-go, we're doing tomatoes. That's tomato week. The next week, we're doing peppers and we're doing summer squash. And then the week after that, we're doing winter squash. There is an exception. There are a couple winter squash that need a little extra time. And I plant them on black fabric across the way next to some melons and some cucumbers. So those ones we move up forward. But this is like what we want to bite off for a week's worth of transplanting at that busy time of year. We couldn't do all transplanting. We're doing other jobs too. So if we're going to do this, we seed all of these to be ready to go. And that's 3 weeks after frost free. And that's not because that's what the plants want. That's just because we're going to have a crew that's the same size over that whole time. And so we can't have to plant all of those things at the same week.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the priority for us. Get those tomatoes in right away. That's what people want early. You know, they can wait on delicata, right? You're going to get a lot of winter squash, but you want those cherry tomatoes right away.
And you haven't had that water wheel transplanter forever, right? Has your crew really enjoyed it? Has it been a
Yeah, that's been awesome. So we got that the same year that we switched over to the rigid trays, and that has just made me want to transplant everything forever. Because it's just so easy on the body for our scale and what we're trying to bite off in any given week. Um, and it's just, yeah, it's simplified the process. It's something that people can do collaboratively. Like there's different roles that you can play, so you can switch it up throughout the day, as opposed to just everybody like planting by hand. And then the new trays just make it that much easier.
so it's a water wheel, but you don't actually add the water?
There's no water on it. That's
No,
right.
what-
That's right. Well, let's go. Should we go look at it? Yeah. I mean, somebody's gonna want to sit on it, don't you think? All right, let's see here. Yeah, so we I don't have a hard time putting water on things right after we plant, and I didn't want to have to fill up over and over again. This was sold like in this particular way from Buckeye. They called it a garlic planter, and it was just a way of like trying to keep it cheaper, and so it is like essentially what a water wheel transplanter would be. Just these are a different kind of wheel, right? They wouldn't hold the water the right way, and obviously there's no tanks for the water. So all we do is we water in. Like this time of year, we'll pre-irrigate before we plant so that the ground's not super dry. But we just water in the trays really well and then just sit on. And then as opposed to like a carousel transplanter, you're not sitting up and just dropping it down a chute. You actually have to like make the transplant. You're actually putting the plant's in the ground. You're making the contact with the soil. So there's some skill to develop there. There's some training there, but it's still so easy. And let's see, here it is. This is where we do our fertilizing too. And this lets me basically farm my entire farm with like 1 ton of fertilizer, because I'm able to drop all of the fertility that most of the plants need. There are some exceptions right here, just directly in front of the plant, right before the dibble's made. And so I'm fertilizing my farm in like 4-inch swaths, right where the cash crop's going. And I can plug these holes as needed, depending on where the plants are. So I can be really, 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 really thrifty with fertilizer, which is nice. It's really focused. So it's not doing a lot for like general soil health, general soil fertility, but it's feeding those plants. Okay. This is for whoever happens to be driving it. We have like a little cheat sheet for how fast you can go depending on what kind of things getting planted, the spacing. So the easiest thing to plant on this, just as a dream, is the winter squash, because we're just doing the middle line and we're doing those every 18 or 24 inches. And so it's very easy. And that you can drive the luxurious speed of 0.5 miles an hour. But the hardest and most frustrating thing that we would plant on this, I mean, it says 0.1, but that's not the slowest. Sometimes we're going 0.05 or 6, which is very slow. But it's still...
But the people planting it is very...
You would have no idea if you're in charge of planting, because it's still as fast as you can go for that spacing. And so you're still working borderline frantically to travel so slow. That seem right? Does anybody want to go for a ride? I have some. This is not a bed. This is actually the farm road that it's parked on. So I could grab some fennel that we're not counting on if anybody needs to experience 0.06 miles an hour. But maybe that'll hold the group up and feel weird. Well, I'll show you how slow it is. That way you can at least see the dibbles being made. Oh, let me get you some plants. I should have brought one.
It's actually very comfortable. And you might have noticed by now that, like, friends, that you're okay. It will hold you. Don't worry. Trust. Mark and I are very different heights from one another. And, even last week, he and I were able to transplant, like, you can adjust the feet, and the distance so that you can be as comfortable as possible. Because otherwise, if my feet would dangle if I tried to be at the same length as him. You often find, too, that, like, Misha was recounting what it was like on your obliques to ride on one of these things. So you trade spots because otherwise you're leaning to one side repeatedly. So you got to really switch it over the other. But if there was any thing that we've purchased for the farm or kind of structured things around, this has probably been the biggest game changer.
My fennel.
Just for bodies, for time. And what Mark has not been able to tell you is like, this is what makes the crow ultimately that much more frustrating. Because here we are, we've designed this system where we lay down beautiful rows of things that have made it so easy and so efficient and so fast to kind of plant out a bed of stuff. You get it all planted. It's lovely. It's fertilized ever so economically. It is all there. It is lined up perfectly for all of his shovels on his cultivating equipment. And then you have to go and replant it. And then it's all crooked and you can't do all the cool stuff that you intended to do. So it's so absolutely frustrating. There's a lot more about crows today than we expected, but seriously, that's what's so frustrating is we've really dialed in a lot of efficiency, or at least tried to, because folks who, we did transplant everything by hand laterally, dropping in plants,
trace.
for everything. This is
I think they're okay. They're starting to yellow a little
It'll
bit.
take days to do what we're able to do in the matter of hours.
Ladies wrap those now.
And you'd be really, really tired and sore and grumpy.
All right. Thanks for your patience. I'm multitasking poorly over here. So everybody would have their own tray if we were doing this for reals.
All right, I'll get out of the way.
You can stash them up here if you'd like. Okay. Claire, what spacing should we be doing these fennel at to ease them into this?
Oh, 2 by 6.
2 by 6.
Wait a minute.
What's that?
Yeah, what are we doing?
And old me, you could do. Yeah, okay. And then
So the way we got it set up is we tapped in this fertilizer, the side dresser here, into the headlight circuit. So you got to dry it with the headlights on in the middle of the day. And then you can see we get that spinning. And I can meter the rate depending on my ground speed. That's the whole point of my little cheat sheet. And then we just go for it. All right, 0.06. And then you just do this for 8 hours. Here, I'll bring you.
Okay. You're gonna want to take cover.
Again, this isn't a real bag, so don't worry about it. You can't do it wrong.
Yeah, just like that. I did the Louisianato and the chop that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like cat.
All right. And that is why God invented podcasts.
For that free line. When you're doing these trays, you use that plastic piece to pop them out before. Do you keep that with you out here, or do you have someone?
We usually, when we get to the end of the bed, you have to hop out anyways. And so there's like a natural breaking point at the end of a bed. People walk back over to the pickup truck. They pop it on the tailgate there. They take a sip of water, and then we start the next bed.
Okay.
Yep.
How many trays are you to be under?
Our beds aren't super long, so I can do 1, 2, 3, and then one on the lap, 4.
Okay.
And if we know that it's going to be annoying to have to deal with going back to the truck, I'll bring some on the front of the tractor. Tractor driver will hop off and restock you. If it's a really hot week and we've got it, we'll have person number 4, and that position is keeping these people filled up with their trays, grabbing the trays that they've discarded, making sure the trays aren't popped too early. So sometimes we even dedicate someone to managing that, but it's not essential. So thank you for being willing.